I'm Glenn Gabert. I'm president of Hudson County Community College. Welcome. It's good to see you here. This is really an interesting venue that we're standing in. I don't know if you know it. If you were here 350 years ago, you'd be just inside the wall of the old city, the old town of Bergen. The wall went right along the street, and our beautiful park there was the apple orchard of the Newkirk family, and the college is part of that patrimony. The fort went, actually the corner was right here. It went 2 blocks over, it went down. And the actual building itself is where the street opens out. And this was a truck farm. And some of the Dutch were killed, and they went over to Manhattan. And after a few years, they got Peter Stuyvesant, gave them permission to move back. And he gave it on the permission that they could run to the fort. So in Hudson County at that point, all of them were there. And it's a very interesting location here. It's really kept that diversity for the entire period of time. At Hudson County Community College this fall, we welcomed almost 9,500 students to the college. In the last 20 years, our enrollments have tripled. In a typical semester, and this is a typical semester, our students will come from more than 125 countries of origin, and they will speak 50 different languages. And we're very excited about the fact that even with that developmental challenge of not speaking English, that after 3 years our students academically look like anyone else, and they perform as well as any community college in New Jersey. Last year we graduated almost 1,000 students into transfer programs, and they went all over New Jersey, but they also went to places like Stanford and Smith, so our students do very well. We're very proud of that. This is a very exciting building that you're in. The college has 8 or 9 buildings in Journal Square. I lose track right now, but this building has been open about 4 years, and it does a couple of things. It's our culinary arts hospitality program is here. We have over 500 students in the hospitality culinary arts divisions, and we have 7 teaching kitchens in this building. It's really the finest facility in this part of the country. No doubt about it. We are also, in this building is the Clare Reading Room. We have over 3,000 cookbooks. There's some of them going back to the 18th century. But we train all kinds of restaurant workers and chefs for all over New York, New Jersey, the region. But we also have chefs of places like Euro Disney and the Royal Dorchester Hotel in London. The Cake Boss has been filmed here. If you watch the Progresso soup commercials with the little cans, those are done in our kitchens here. We've just done Applebee's commercials are done here. So it's really a spectacular venue. If you have an opportunity to see the building, it's really probably the most remarkable kitchens you'll ever see. One of the disservices we do to our students here is the kitchens are so spectacular. They will never in a hotel or restaurant ever see kitchens like this. The president, my background was history and philosophy. It was not in culinary arts. And I must say things like an $8,000 French bread making machine are absolutely beyond my comprehension. And I'm easily amused looking at something like that. It's really quite remarkable. But we do other things at the college besides culinary arts, of course, large nursing divisions. We have 1,400 students in allied health and pre-allied health programs. We're under construction 1 block down the street for our new library building. It's going to be 110,000 square feet, larger than this building. Have a 2-story, a 34,000 square foot reading room. It'll have a Starbucks coffee type of thing in the front. It'll all be state of the art. So very exciting things at Hudson County Community College. And there are 19 county colleges in New Jersey. We're just one of the 19, and over 400,000 residents of New Jersey now are in community college programs here, credit or non-credit. So we really do exciting things here. In the past 20 years, more than 100,000 persons have gone through credit programs at Hudson County Community College. So we do, exciting things for the state. We do the transfer programs, we do the career programs. We do a business and industry programs, for economic development. We do a really exciting things for developmental ed for people that have college level ability, but they don't have the skills yet in math, reading, writing, and language. And then we also do things like we're doing this morning, where community colleges are a nexus for community events like this. We bring members of the community together. So we're excited to have you here. Hudson County Community College is a great place, and we're really honored to to be a part of this. I'd be personally welcome our Assemblyman Prieto here, and I'd be very remiss if I didn't welcome also my former boss, Betty Spinelli, who was one of our, not only one of our board members, she was chairman of our board for several years. So welcome, we're glad you're here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Gabert. We're looking forward to the education panel, which starts shortly, and you'll be participating in that, so we're looking forward to hearing more from Dr. Gabert later. It's a pleasure to welcome you all here this morning to State of Hudson County 2012. And let me introduce the panelists, starting from my left, Maria Nieves, who's president of the Hudson County Chamber of Commerce. To my immediate right is Assemblyman Vincent Prieto from District 32. And at the end, Elizabeth Betty Spinelli, who is chair of the Hudson County Economic Development Corporation. So thank you all for being here. And let's get right into the topic at hand, which is the economy. And because we're videotaping and people from across the state will be viewing this, let's maybe state some of the characteristics about Hudson County that people may not be familiar with. That you're the smallest county in the state, the most urbanized county, the most densely populated, which anybody driving in this morning probably figured that part out, one of the most diverse populations in the state, and you also have the distinction, unfortunately, of having the highest unemployment rate, I believe, currently in the state. Is that, Assemblyman, do you want to speak a bit to kind of characterize the state of the economy of Hudson County?
Well, right now we're having tough economic times all over. It's a national trend, and New Jersey has lagged behind and has not come out of it as quickly as we see that in the unemployment rate. That nationally it dropped from 8.2 to 8.1. Statewide, we're actually at 9.9. In Hudson County, the last number that I had seen, it was about 11.4%, which that, you know, those are daunting numbers. That it's very difficult times for everybody, and people are out there looking for work and want to work. So it's not that people don't want to work and want a handout. So we got to try and see how we can help them. We've been trying to put some type of economic development things on the table, some job packages. I was in Trenton yesterday. We were talking about some bills to get there. We were trying to look at, there was a Georgia model to either get interns that they would work for like 6 weeks so people would try them out, and then some other incentives that we're trying to put together to be able to, you know, maybe kickstart us back in the road to recovery. There's a lot of tax incentives and things that I can further talk about.
Great. And Maria, as president of the Chamber of Commerce, obviously you're working closely with businesses who are starting up, businesses who have been here for a long time. How would you characterize the mood, I guess, of your members?
I would say, you know, our members are probably, they're cautiously optimistic. I think everybody is really holding very tightly onto what they are able to do in terms of creating jobs, and you know they've got budgets that they're working very closely on maintaining and managing, and also at the same time, you know, putting their investments wisely against, you know, their technology, their promotion, their marketing. And that's where the Chamber has been trying to work really closely with our members to really help them to market mostly to a local community. A lot of our members, and our membership at the Chamber runs a gamut from very large corporations to small businesses of 1 to 2 employees, and so we're working really hard with them to help them to market to the membership first and foremost, but to the local consumer, because that's really where you start to grow your business. And then hopefully, you know, as this economy turns around and we start to see consumer spending go back up, which I'm hoping will happen, and I think that's where people are trying to be cautiously optimistic. You know, folks will start to reap the benefits of the investments that they're making.
And are you finding that more people are starting businesses now? Maybe they've been laid off of jobs. It's not really an option. But it's an option for them that they perhaps never thought about.
I do believe that a lot of more people, especially those folks who might have been in those sort of middle management jobs, which were high paying and probably very difficult to replicate in this economy, as larger corporations sort of seem to shed those types of workers. They are looking at how they can take their very specialized, unique skill set and, you know, go into consulting work and start their own enterprises. I know just anecdotally a number of folks who have done that, and I think there's a lot of opportunity out there for it. And probably there's also a sense that, you know, they can control their own destiny.
Right.
a little bit
Right.
more.
Right.
And so it can be empowering for folks to take that sort of decision.
It is. And Betty Spinelli, let's turn to you, because as chair of the Hudson County Economic Development Corporation, your task is to, I guess, to create an environment that makes it easier for startups and for businesses to come here, to attract more businesses.
Absolutely. One of my charges is business attraction and retention. I'd like to clarify that our unemployment number now is 11%, so it has moved in the right direction, not where we would like it, but in the right direction. And that, I believe it's Burlington County is at 13. So we are not the highest in the
Good.
state. Not that you would want to see anyone be dubbed the highest in the state, because we're all citizens here. Yes, our attraction efforts, we're seeing companies wanting to come here for a couple of very good reasons. We have access to freight as well as cargo through our ships and the airport. But the most important thing is our relative proximity to Manhattan. As they say in all real estate, it's location, location, location. And it truly is. And what used to be rotted out piers has now become great and splendid housing as well as promenades for walking. And people often say, well, why would that make a difference in economic development? It is those quality of life issues that drive behaviors, because when a captain of industry chooses to live in, say, Gothenburg or West New York or Hoboken, the thought of moving their business or part of their business here becomes the reality, because they realize that, yes, you can in fact sit in our traffic as you're making your way to Manhattan, or you could be in your business already instead of still trying to make your way into Manhattan. Not that we will ever compete with Manhattan. And I want everyone to understand that I don't ever view us as being the competition to something as glorious as Manhattan, which it is. We're just lucky that, as my father used to say, they take the pictures of Manhattan from here, not from there. So we have the one thing no one else has. We have the view.
And your proximity also obviously leads to your strength in financial services, which is one of the bedrocks of your economy here, as well as leisure and hospitality.
The white-collar jobs have certainly blossomed. What we need to have blossom now are the blue-collar jobs. We need to have more construction. And to be perfectly frank, as FDR once realized in an economy that was slipping far below where it should have been, it is time perhaps to redo our bridges and our roads and put good construction jobs back into the hands of the people that need them.
And infrastructure is key here in Hudson County.
Absolutely.
And if I
Please.
may say, actually I agree 100%, and Betty is so right about Hudson County, our geography, where we stand, it's incredible. My daytime job, I'm an assemblyman, but I still have a daytime job because that's a part-time. I'm the construction code official for the town of Secaucus. And last year, in a bad economy, my department had the best year, and I equated to our permit fees. 2008 was the best, and it was about sort of 800,000 was what we had brought in. We brought in over 1.5 million this year, so that was almost double. And that was due to a lot of development, a lot of warehouses. There's a lot of data recovery centers that are coming in because we're so close to Manhattan. We actually have a residential project right by the Lautenberg train station that when it's fully built, it'll be 2,200 units. They're rentals. Their success has been so great because of the geography, because you can hop on the train 10 minutes to Midtown Manhattan. And in that aspect, we have been competing with them for the housing, which is great. They started with 304 units, 100% occupancy. 180, 100% occupancy. 480 was the next one. That's completely done, completely rented out. They just came in for 580 more. So that has been a great thing. Other parts of economic development, at the state we did the urban transit hub tax credit, which Goya Foods took advantage of that, got $82 million over 10 years. And by doing that, they were able to stay in the state, keep here 500 jobs. We want them to create jobs, but sometimes retaining the jobs is very important. They're also probably adding about another 80 jobs. What Betty was talking about, construction, very important, about 150 temporary construction jobs while they build this 615,000 square foot facility that's going to stay in New Jersey, and they're going to bring over from New York. So those are some of the things that spur, you know, our economy, and it's going to help us. And that alone, you know, the infrastructure for us, mass transit. I sat on transportation for 8 years. Our roads were, at one point, I remember when I was a kid, we were one of the best in the nation. They're not anymore. We have so much work to do, and we need to invest in those projects. The ARC Tunnel was one project that I actually thought was worthwhile for us to have kept going with that project, for the reason being it would have brought so many jobs in the temporary, so many jobs in the long term. And right now, we are basically at capacity in the rail system going to New York. By 2020, we're going to need double what we have today. So I thought that was a project that I thought we should have kept going with it and not redirected that money to the Transportation Trust Fund. We have to do a better job.
So most of
in
the
that.
money that's required for the infrastructure work that needs to be done, you've got the rail, the needs for the rail transportation.
Right.
The bridges need to be redone. I think I heard Jim Hughes say recently that you know, you have a greater chance of being killed in a traffic accident by driving across the Pulaski Skyway than just taking anything else that you can do. So that's huge. I know the port is inducing some big shipping needs and changes,
Yeah.
right? In
The
port expansion.
There's a lot. The Pulaski Skyway is actually, they said it's really obsolete. It must have been, well, every time I drive by it, I said, in its day, it had to be state of the art, but it actually,
The day was a while ago.
It's a while ago, you're right. So those are the things we need. The port, there's money that's coming in to raise the Bayonne Bridge to be able to accommodate more ships coming into our ports, so that's very important. You know, our Transportation Trust Fund, it's about $1.5 billion from the state, and we get matching from the federal government. So it's very important that we have those matching funds there. I know a lot of times people don't want to hear about a gas tax. And that's something that in the future we do need to start looking how we're going to be able to, you know, fund these projects and to make sure we dedicate some of that money. We're the third lowest in the nation on gas tax. So that's a debate that needs to be brought forward, not that it's off the table. Everything should be on the table.
Of course, the question is how do you balance the higher tax and economic difficulty, you know, like that we're facing now?
Right.
So.
The one thing that I would say with that, if you think about every penny brings between $50 and $70 million, and we are a corridor state that about a third of it is from out of state that we get here. So, you know.
Better than us.
Exactly. So.
Yeah. Maria, how important is transportation to most of your members?
It's crucial. And I think Betty and Assemblyman Prieto have raised some excellent points. You know, it's about being able to move around the county, which has just seen tremendous growth over the last 20 years easily, and be able to get to your customers easily, and get to your get your products to market easily. So it's incredibly crucial. And it's also about, you know, being able to tap into the employee base that's here in the county, but also the folks who come from outside the county to work here. And quite frankly, without the infrastructure that has been invested in Hudson County, we wouldn't have seen the development that we've seen over the last 20 years. It needs to continue because I think there are studies out there by the New Jersey TPA that says that, you know, the population in the county is going to get to as high as 1 million folks by 2030. Here in Jersey City, you know, you could be talking about 800,000 people. You know, whether you believe those projections or not, definitely the trend has been upward in terms of population here since the 1990s.
This is the second largest city in the state.
Yes, and that trend is going to continue. When you look at the sort of residential towers that have been going up, especially along the waterfront, folks are moving in, and hopefully they're going to be staying. And, you know, we need to see the continued investment in the infrastructure. And I wanted to also, you know, mention, you know, Assemblyman Prieto talked about the ports. You know, it's not just, we need to raise those ports because we're very much part of a global economy, and now competing against, you know, these shippers from like folks like China, countries like China. So we really need to think broadly, big picture, long term, and start to think about what are we going to need in this area 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
So when you think about the port, which obviously is global economy, how does that impact, say, the most local of your members? How does it correlate down to impact their work?
Well, I think, you know, it would be easy to just sort of say, well, there's this macroeconomy that doesn't affect us. But I would argue that a macroeconomy, even on a global scale, has impact to even the smallest businesses. Because the local markets and this global economy, it all becomes very hyper-local after a while. And with the technology that we have, all of us available to us, from the smartphones in our pockets to what we can now do on our computers,
Right.
you know, you can tap into markets just about anywhere. So I think we need to start thinking about how, you know, we can continue to have the development here, not only in our infrastructure, but also in our educational institutions, to make sure that we're preparing our workforce and our business owners to really start to think and globally and how to tap into the opportunities
That's
that are
a
out
terrific
there.
point. Betty, from the perspective of the Economic Development Corporation, I'm sure that you've been all over the port issue for quite a while.
Yes,
looking at the
absolutely.
planned expansion.
I have an absolute attraction to the port since my father was a longshoreman. So being born and bred here and having access to those piers and recognizing the necessity of goods that come in. When people don't realize is this market, if you bring your goods to this market, you reach a population other than just Hudson County. Think of all of Manhattan and how easy, through Cruxton Yards, through the other connections, you can reach millions and millions of people with your products. So the object of this import-export, we need to do a far better job here in the state of New Jersey, never mind just Hudson County, with the idea of exports. We need to utilize our ports not as a one-way street in, but as a two-way street going out, because that will drive economic development. So it's absolutely imperative that we start looking at more manufacturing jobs here in Hudson County as well as the state of New Jersey, and we start looking at those industries that will allow for competition globally. It's one thing to say competition globally, but as an economic development professional, I'm here to say, you know, everybody says we're a service economy. Well, if everybody continues to not be employed at the numbers that we're seeing, eventually those goods and services will go unsold in this country. You know, it's a question of diminishing returns that people are just ignoring. They're ignoring it like we ignored that bubble of the market, of the housing market.
Right.
I'm sorry, if people continue to lose their job and unemployment rates continue to rise, people will not have the money to shop and buy the goods and services that are being brought into our ports. That will drive behavior like nothing else will. And I think we're starting to see that ever so slightly, because it's not just here. I sit on a couple of committees that deal with things from Maine to Maryland. It is felt across the market. I know no other state that can honestly say, you know, singing the song Happy Days Are Here Again. It's not happening.
Right.
It's moving ever so slightly. I think many companies are holding their breath, waiting for this presidential election to be over with, to see, you know, where will the chips fall. And that's prudent. Thank God it's only November. But, you know, we have to start driving behaviors here that allow for our people to understand it is with global access that they can grow their businesses, even if it's from the computer of their home.
Exactly.
And that's very important.
So Betty, you've got the capacity here in Hudson County for these manufacturing businesses, and you're charged with the task of attracting businesses to come in. So what are the selling points that you use for Hudson County?
First of all, our workforce. Not only do we have a highly skilled workforce and a highly educated workforce, and as the former chairwoman of this college, I've got to say that Glenn Gabriel and the community colleges do a beautiful job of educating the public across the state of New Jersey in our 19 community colleges in the most affordable way. People just don't understand in today's market, if you want your son or daughter to go to college, it's best to send them 2 years into a community college and then have them transferred. We have many programs that transfer into, as the president said earlier, Stanford. We couldn't be prouder that our students are being accepted. Columbia, Stanford, Rutgers,
Right.
New Jersey City University, St. Peter's, magnificent and a total benefit to their family. That certainly has spurred the educational upswing within Hudson County. That said, there will always be those people that are new to our shores. And those jobs that do not require a great deal of education need to be looked at as well. People need to have employment. I know no one who is sitting around thinking to themselves, well, I don't need to go to work today. Everyone needs to support themselves and their families. There is no getting around that. And I'm looking at a lot of people nodding their heads here. It's a fallacy to believe that people do not want to go to work. People just don't have an opportunity to go to work. So it's imperative that we drive the behavior of bringing into our county and the state of New Jersey, because that regionalism must stop.
So how are you finding the climate for attracting manufacturing, which, you know, New Jersey obviously used to lead the country manufacturing. Are you getting bites? Are people looking at Hudson County now?
Yes, so many people have looked at Hudson County. I want to make sure, though, that we can blur those lines, because not everything fits in Hudson County.
Absolutely. And as we go around the state and look in every county at the economy, it's we're getting more and more of an understanding, as you said, that we're regional, even with other states.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we need to
state
blur
works,
those lines between what is Hudson, what is Bergen, what is Essex. Those lines need to, because a company does not see those lines. So it's imperative that we do not think parochially only in our own territory, that we see the bigger picture, that we're paying taxes within the state of New Jersey. If a company doesn't fit here, I do call the economic development professionals in other counties.
Good.
We do work cooperatively, so please know that
yes.
does work.
And you all work pretty well together, I think, in Hudson County as well. I noticed that a lot of you sit on each other's boards, so there's a lot of exchange of information and cooperation.
There definitely is, and you know, with the state has been actually trying to attract you know, companies to the state. You know, the EDA for the state.
Choose New Jersey.
Tracy McDaniel, absolutely,
Tracy
doing a
Tracy
magnificent job.
Right, trying to bring
job.
here. Also, as I said before, when we created the Urban Transit Hub, it was to give people that were creating over 250 jobs. But that sort of changed, and then we created, sort of went to change it, that at-risk jobs that were to retain them in the state, because that's very important, because if you have companies that leave, that becomes a problem. So we want to keep the ones we have. We want to show what a good place this is, what a wonderful workforce we have. And I got to tell you something, with education, we just went through a higher education bill that, you know, and I know your next panel is going to talk about education, but that was so important to do, because we want to be able to give access throughout the whole state. Because most of the institutions were up north. We wanted to make sure in the south they have that same access, as whether the community college are a great vehicle to be able to get to a you know, 4-year institution.
Which is hopefully here in New Jersey instead of in the rest of the country.
And that's the reason why, because we have such talented kids here. We spend so much money K through 12. We educate them, I think, up to like $18,000 a year is what it costs. And then these kids, if they leave the state, normally what happens is they don't come back. So we want to keep those young and bright ones here. As Betty said, then it attracts people to come here, because it's so important. We have such a diverse community, especially in Hudson County, and like you said, from skill sets from the top all the way to the bottom, and you know, and they could do any job. So I think you know, we are in a point that the economy is starting to get better. And it's funny, because when we had talked about the numbers, I was looking last night, and I could only find for June and July on our numbers, so I'm very happy to hear. The August numbers I did not have them. I had them for the state. So I think it is great that we're coming down, you know, on the unemployment rate. But the state as a whole, we need to do a better job. And, you know, and we've been working hard at it, trying to give incentives. When I started talking about before the jobs package, we were thinking about doing some type of credit to the employer if they would hire an unemployed person. That person, then they would get, for up to 4 years, they would get a credit on their taxes that they would not have to pay into. That would help. We were talking about like an intern type of a program that for 6 weeks they would go in and intern so they could see what they could do. And a lot of people would want to do that. There was a price tag attached to that, and it was more for transportation. We're thinking if we could do it through mass transit, we can give them some type of passes if they would use mass transit, and it would be revenue neutral to the state. That would work. We'd get some of these bright, talented people out there. They could say, oh, this is great, you know, they want to keep them. after 6 weeks, they would say, oh, this is great. And people, like Betty said, people are out there wanting to work. And you know what? If all you're doing is putting up your time to show what you can do, I think that would be a great thing. So hopefully maybe we can give some of these incentives to these businesses. They could take advantage of it. Then these people will have that disposable income that then they'll go out, buy more groceries, start buying things. And as we say, from the middle out, maybe the economy can get spurred.
Let me ask a quick question about UEZs, because that's something that no longer exists in New Jersey. Has that had an impact?
It does
They
exist.
still exist.
They still
The
exist.
tax credits, the credits have changed. Is that correct?
No, they have
It's-
not. The only thing that has
what's
changed
the-
is the administrative aspect
Okay.
of it. The UEZs are still alive and well in the state
Okay.
of New Jersey and
Okay.
still offering those incentives to the business. The administrative end of it has been the one that has taken the hit. And, you know, it's...
Have you felt the impact here in the county, or does it make a difference?
Well, I think that UEZs for the area really become so important because they're these areas that they've been able to pick them up. Some of them were blighted areas that now can attract people because they want to take advantage in an economy like this. When you're 7% sales tax and you get 3.5%,
Right.
people will come. And the administrative part it's kind of, in my point, it was kind of sad that that was sort of component taken out because that money was invested into those areas to, you know, for police,
Right.
fire, you know, for safety, to make sure that those areas, you know, were attractive to people to come
And obviously
into.
had an impact on the municipalities who used the income.
Absolutely. Here in Jersey City that I used to represent in Central Avenue, you know, these districts are so important to have that to compete because now big boxes that are put other places put them at a disadvantage. So, you know, your mom and pop shop, you know, if they can compete and they can bring people in, and once they come in and see, oh, this is a nice place, there's a little restaurant here, there's this, they start more frequently coming to the areas, and I thought that's great for the economy.
livable, workable communities, and that's exactly what we're talking about. And I can only speak for the ones in Hudson, but it's through our UEZ administrators that the businesses found the UEZ program. It does not tell itself to the business. You need people who are actively going out there, signing up members
Absolutely.
as businesses are moving into the communities and managing it. So, you know, I can only speak for what I've seen here in Hudson, that the programs were well managed, well maintained, and well done. So,
And Maria, from your perspective, your members, have they noticed any change with the UEZ?
I think it's mostly on the administrative end and what the long-term outlook for that program is going to be, since there have been some changes. Because those are the folks who are really helping to attract businesses to the local areas, which, you know, there's been a lot of good work done in that area. And it's a shame that there have been some changes, because I did think the bill that was on the table that would have simply asked these local areas to submit their plans and be benchmarked would have been a good first step in getting to, you know, everybody on the same page and understanding what the value is in these programs.
From your members' perspective and from your perspective and what you see in the county, could you give me we'll do a lightning round here. What's the best thing that's happened to Hudson County's economy in the past year? And what's also had the most negative impact, the best and worst?
Well, I would say that the best thing is that we continue to see investment and development. So the community college is building the new library, and St. Peter's University is putting up a student center. And we've seen some new residential towers come online. And I think that that's probably going to pick up, which is very exciting. So, you know, when I say cautiously optimistic and folks are cautiously optimistic, you know, Hudson County has a lot of tremendous assets to continue to offer. And I think that even though there's been this, you know, recession and it's seemed intractable, that to some extent Hudson County, in terms of at least the development we're going to, I hopefully see, I'm optimistic about it, you know, has a little bit more resiliency perhaps in other parts of the country. So I think that that's all, you know, bodes incredibly well for this area. I think that, though, the uncertainty that we're seeing, certainly on the national level with the presidential election, hopefully that's not been good for the economy. Folks want to know where we're going, where we're heading. I would add not only the presidential elections, but also the congressional elections that are coming up
So you're more tied to it's like everyone is, to the national economy.
Right.
For this.
So I think, once we get past November, hopefully we'll start to see, when everybody knows where we're going, whether, you agree or disagree with the candidate who gets put in office, but we'll all have some certainty, and certainty certainly
It's
helps
key.
tremendously.
Absolutely. And Betty, from your perspective, what's the best thing that's happened to had the most positive impact on the Hudson County economy in the past year, and also what's had the most negative impact?
We in Hudson, being one of the first major cities in the state, suffered from a thing called brownfields, and we still do have them. However, those brownfields have now turned to gold fields, as in the town of Harrison, as well as our waterfronts, where contaminated properties that were behind fences for a long time are now reeking with new housing, the Red Bull Stadium, as well as a number of other great developments on our waterfronts and everyone's waterfronts. We're very blessed in Hudson County. We have 11 municipalities that have waterfront property, one that does not, which is Union City, which is high enough up that it has great views. So we're very, very blessed. I think the light rail has played a tremendous part in making sure that in every sector of Hudson County, people now have the ability to travel very inexpensively. You can make it from the end of Bayonne straight to North Bergen, Tunley Avenue on one ride. And if you have not been on our glorious light rail, please feel free to go down and get on one of those light rail cars and take a look at what's really happening in every municipality that it touches, and it touches quite a few. So I see, as an outcome, I do see slow turnaround. Now, however, as an economic developer, I'm going to say the thing that people just don't really sometimes understand in real estate and in commercial real estate. Now is the time to do the assemblage. It goes along with that old adage of buy low, sell high. Now that there is plenty of steel and plenty of opportunity to hire workers to do construction, now is the time to find those parcels where perhaps a business needs to be, should be, could be, and do it in the most economical way. Now is the time to think about your future by buying and assembling a building that will be a shining example of your company, your business, your industry, forever and all time. But now is the time to do it. It's like when you have a coupon and you're at the store and the store has put it on sale and you now have that coupon. It is a beautiful win-win-win. A win for the state of New Jersey, a win for our area, and a win for the businesses that are looking to come here. There's a lot of valuable land that is still available, and we should make sure that companies know across the United States to come take advantage of the wonderful prices that now exist.
And Assemblyman, from your perspective, you give us the benefit of both the state and a local perspective. But what would you say has had the greatest positive impact on Hudson County in the past year?
I think, and talking, I think, listening here, what I had said before, construction, we had seen it come up. And like I said, in my town, it's been incredible. Harrison, which is a town that I represent, and the Red Bull Stadium, and they have development that has been coming up, and eventually that will be an entertainment destination because it's incredible what it has. It is fabulous, yeah. And there's some of the housing that has been created around it, and there's a lot more expansion coming up, and they're going to be breaking ground on a lot of projects, as we see here in Jersey City in the waterfront, hotels in where I come from. We have 13 hotels in Secaucus. I have another one being built, and I have another one coming in with 2 more restaurants. And all that is because this area, our proximity to New York City is incredible. We attract an audience that is incredible because they come from all over the world. They stay on this side of the river because it's cheaper. And so that actually is good for us because they visit our restaurants, they visit our outlets, our stores. And so I think it's great. Sometimes I tell people, where else can you bird watch in the Meadowlands in the day and catch a Broadway play at night? So we sit in an area that's great. Right now, I think it's up in the air, the Formula One racing that they have coming to Hudson County for next year, which would become an economic engine for that period that it's here. We have the Super Bowl coming in 2014. That's going to create a lot of, it's for a small universe of time, but what it brings to the area, then people see it, people come and view it. we had talked at the Meadowlands about, that impacts us here, about potential gaming, some type of gaming there. There's the Dream Park. All that creates jobs. It brings people to the area. They see what we have here. And that just not becomes an economic engine for this region. It's for the whole state. Because right now, we really need that. And a lot of times, the North and the South would always be feuding about, if you do something up here, it takes away from Atlantic City. That's no longer the case. And Betty and I actually travel south because we have homes down there, and in the summer, but we see the difference. A lot of people here now for gaming, they're not going to Atlantic City, they're going to surrounding states. So we're losing out on that, and we need to maybe capture that. So we need to start having the dialogue, which was not available maybe 5 years ago, and today we're already starting to have that. So I think those type of things in this area for us, Hudson County is sitting in a perfect location to take advantage of all these things that are coming into the area. Negatively, looking at it as from the state level, has been our budget. I became the budget chairman, I think probably when things are not coming out
Great
of the...
timing.
Yes,
Great.
I know. My wife says when I get into something, it normally it's tough going. But it's been a wonderful experience to be the chairman because I get to see how government works, and it's a $32 billion budget for the state of New Jersey, which is incredible how we talk about that amount of money. But what we have seen is the projections have not coming in. Sometimes business leaders, they're gun shy. They're waiting and see that approach to see what happens. And until maybe a little bit more confidence comes in, then things start to turn around. Like I said, it's a national, we're tied to it. The election's a big thing because obviously people want certainty of what's going to be there, and they'll say, okay, we have to deal with it one way or the other. So those are the things that have been impacting us negatively. Our high unemployment rate is the other thing that, it's not acceptable that, you got 1 out of every 10 person, is not working, and they're out there looking for a job. So we have to do a better job. How can we get them to work? So then in turn, they'll start pumping that money into the economy. And like, again, education, I think, is the key. I think we're investing in it. We have a ballot question this year. I think it's $750 million for infrastructure. I think that'll be a wonderful thing because that'll create jobs once we start from the construction aspect of it. And we need to invest in education. We had not done a bond for many years. So we need to do what we've been doing here in Hudson County with beautiful facilities like this.
Absolutely, across the state. So last question, we have just a few minutes left. If you could wave your magic wand and make one thing happen that you think would have the most beneficial effect on this economy in the county, what would that be? You've got unlimited power. What do you think, what one thing would have the greatest impact?
It would be jobs, jobs, jobs. I think we've all been talking about it all morning. The national rate is high. The state rate is 2 points above that, 8.1%, or just about 2 points above. We're just not going to get anywhere until we put people back to work. And as the Assemblyman said, you put them back to work, they start to support their local communities through their tax dollars, and that money gets reinvested into our local areas. So it's all about job creation. It's all about, I think, as well, supporting small businesses so that they can go ahead and start feeling comfortable to hire folks.
Getting past that uncertainty that we've
exactly.
talked about. So Betty, from your perspective, what one thing would have the greatest impact?
I think having more money into our infrastructure because that we're all on the roads, but your trucks, everything leads in and out of Hudson County. We really need to maintain them. We need to take care of our bridges. A few years back, we saw, I believe it was in Minnesota, a bridge fell down with people on it. We cannot have that happen. We should not. We should have an expectation as citizens of the United States to have safeguards in place that our bridges will stand and will work. And that Skyway Bridge is a good example of something that has worked well for a long time, but is now in dire need of change and perhaps help. And I think that kind of infrastructure money and jobs attached to that money will do just the things we're talking about. I know it sounds very simplistic, but when you consider how many people are out of work, it's those simplistic things that will jumpstart the economy and bring prosperity back.
And Assemblyman, we'll let you have the last word.
And I think they both put it, in a nutshell. It's about creating jobs. If we could get money allocated to this area, that in turn, whether it's infrastructure, housing projects, commercial projects, those construction jobs, you start with those. Those jobs spur the economy, then everything is it's like a domino effect. Everything else then falls into place. You start that trickle, instead of the trickle down effect from the middle, you're trickling out. And that's what would help this economy. So I think if we could invest in everything we had said, in business, creating jobs, in infrastructure, to make sure we can get them from point A to point B. We have a great mass transit. We need to make sure it's affordable for our people to be able to get from point A to point B and get to their jobs. And I think if we start getting a better handle on it and investing here, I think people will want to come here. And like I said, we live in a unique area that we have so much available to us.
Geography really is destiny for you all. It's
it
more than
definitely
anyone
is. Like
else.
Betty said, it goes location, location, location. It starts all with that.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for being here this
Thank you.
morning.
Thank
Maria, Assemblyman, Betty, thank you for your views on the economy in Hudson
Good
County.
job, sir.
Yeah.